Welcome to the Real Estate Bee with your guide and as a trusted real estate expert, Daniela Gnecchi.
Hello and welcome or welcome back. Today I would like to discuss 3 forms of rental that are less popular than the ones we have discussed until now, but still may represent a very interesting opportunity for investors. They are student rental, renting out by room, and co-living. The rental market has been and is evolving, so these forms of rental may represent some emerging interesting opportunities. I will tell you again how they work, what is the target, who manages them, what are the pros and cons, and what ROI you can expect. So stay until the end and let's start. I am Daniela Gnecchi and this is my channel, Everything You Need to Know to Purchase a Property in Spain as a Foreigner. I invite you to go to my website, therealestatebee.com. You can book a call with me, you can contact me, I can help you with the purchase of almost all the new development properties along the Spanish coast. Or I can help you as personal shopper for the purchase of a second-hand property. Now let's start with the rentals. Number 1, student rental. Although not as popular as in countries like, for example, the UK, where student rental is extremely popular as an investment opportunity, in Spain, it is growing in popularity, especially in cities like Barcelona and Madrid, where there are some of the most famous universities in Europe. What is student rental? Renting out to students in buildings that are located usually by universities and with very good transport links. The properties are furnished, equipped specifically for student rental. The target is, of course, students, both local and international, and Spain is getting more and more popular also for the Erasmus program, so there are students from all over the world who come to study in Spain, but not only students, because, for example, in summer when the university is closed, it is not unusual that these properties are rented out to other targets, for example, professionals or even tourists. I have stayed in student accommodations in the UK when I was traveling alone. It's quite usual because it's a very cost-efficient way to spend some time in a country. But of course, mostly students. Who manages student rental? There are specific companies who are highly specialized in managing this type of rental, or sometimes even the universities themselves through their housing offices. They handle the listings, they take care of all the administration, the contracts, and often they also take care of the utilities, of the cleaning, of all the additional services related to this type of rental. What is the fee of these agencies? Usually it is between 10 and 20%, but it depends. It depends on the location, it depends on the services that are included, so it can vary, but this is more or less what they charge. What are the advantages of student rental? Well, you will never run out of clients because students, even if there is a fast turnover, every year there are new students who come to the university, so the properties are constantly rented out. What are the disadvantages on the other hand? Well, usually heavier wear and tear of the property, a more frequent need for maintenance and repair because of the type of target and because of often the frequent turnover, and the fact that for part of the year, in summer specifically, the property may be empty. What is the ROI of these properties? Well, it depends on the location. Something in the center of Madrid is different than something that is in the periphery of a smaller town, for example. Usually the return on investment on this type of properties is quite high. You can consider between 5 and 7% of the purchase price as a gross rental yield of these properties. Now, number 2 is renting by the room. This is a form of rental that again has been growing in popularity, and it means renting out specific rooms inside the same apartment to different people. So each one has their own bedroom, and they share the kitchens, the bathrooms, the living area. What is the target? Again, students, or also young professionals. Digital nomads use a lot this form of rental because they don't mind sharing communal spaces and paying less for the rental. Who manages this form of rental? Either the landlord directly, or there are specific agencies that are specialized in this form of rental. What is their fee? It varies. It can go from 10% to 25%. It depends on the location, on what is included. Sometimes the agencies can charge a bit more for handling the contracts because, of course, for each apartment there are several contracts to manage. It is more work and they can charge an extra fee for that. What are the advantages of renting out by room? This is interesting. First of all, flexibility. Flexibility in the sense that there are different targets that may be interesting in this form of rental, so it's a higher possibility of renting out, but also the fact that by renting out by a room, you have a lower risk of your apartment not being rented, because maybe one room is not rented, but the other 3 are. So it ensures a higher ROI, a higher return in terms especially of occupancy. Now, about the profitability of this form of rental, it used to be very good because by renting out by a room, it was possible to ask more money than by renting out as a whole. But, and we move to the disadvantages, this is where the famous housing law comes in. They have started to regulate this. The government of Spain, with this law, have been imposing for the past, almost 2 years this year. What have they decided? That if you rent out by a room, the total of the rent you get for all the different rooms cannot exceed the maximum price that you could ask if you were renting out your apartment as a whole, which of course not only limits a lot the profitability of your investment, but also, in my opinion, makes you question about, is it really worth it to going through the added management that renting out by room requires when you don't have a very important return in terms of profitability. I believe it is still interesting depending on the type of property. For example, if you have a very big property that is not a high luxury property that could be rented out for a very high rent, including long term, but it is in an area that is not the top residential area, but it is an area where it's interesting for targets like student, professionals, digital nomads to reside, and you have a big property, for example, 4 bedrooms, it may be much easier to rent it out by a room than to rent it out as a whole, because not many people are willing to rent a 4-bedroom apartment, especially when it's medium term. So it can be an interesting alternative that you may want to study depending on the type of the property. What is the ROI of this type of rental by room? If managed well, can be interesting, can be around 8% or sometimes even slightly more. It really depends, as I was saying, by the property and by the costs involved, how much the agency who takes care of it charges you. But it can be quite interesting, although it is a bit complicated to manage. Finally, is the third type of rental is something that it's gaining traction in Spain. It is the co-living. What is the co-living? The co-living is a situation in which the tenants share a communal space. So they have their own private rooms, which are inside a place where they share the living areas, the kitchens, and there are usually shared facilities like, for example, gyms, co-working spaces. The target here is, again, students, but especially in this case, young professionals. This is the form of rental that is preferred by the digital nomads, and they are popping up more and more, this type of buildings that offer co-living in cities like Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga, where a lot of digital nomads are moving. Who manages this form of rental? There are specialized agencies that take care of absolutely everything. They take care of advertising the properties, of all the administration, the contracts. They take care of the maintenance of the properties, the cleaning, and even sometimes organizing events for the tenants. So it's really a full management of the whole co-living experience. What is the fee of these agencies? Here there are different options. If we speak about fees, usually the fees are a bit higher, 20 to even 30%, because of all the type of services that are included. However, sometimes there are other forms of agreements. The landlord may share the profit with the agency, or they may even let the property to the agency, and the agency takes care of renting it out to the tenants. So there are different options depending on the location and the type of agency. What are the advantages? It is a modern form of rental that is growing and is expected to grow over the next years. So the advantage is definitely the fact that it should be easy to rent out. It should become easier and easier to rent out with this form of rental, and also the profitability can be interesting. On the other hand, the disadvantages are that there are higher costs included, higher costs involved, because it's not only the cost of the administration and of the management of the property, but often there are also the costs related to all the co-living experience that, depending on the agreement, may have to be paid by the landlord. Another disadvantage may be the fact that when you invest in this type of properties and you decide to resell them, it may be more complicated because these are purely investment properties, so you can only resell them to investors. It's the same with student rentals, but student rentals, it's a more usual form of rental. In this case, because of the higher costs involved and the fact that they are a bit less usual, it may be a bit complicated to resell them. However, the ROI you can expect from this investment is quite interesting. Usually, according to the average, is between 6 and 8%, because the people who rent in these type of accommodations, they pay a premium price because they benefit from all the services, which ensures you a higher profitability and also the ability to be able to cover the higher costs involved. This type of rental, again, is regulated by the Ley de Arrendamiento Urbano. There is no specific regulation, but be careful, because if they are rented out for a shorter period of time, then they fall into the short-term rental, tourist rental, and there may be some stricter rules applied to that. Altogether, when you work with experts, with agencies that can advise you, you shouldn't worry, because they take care of everything and they deal with this. You don't have to worry about that. So with this video, you have a full picture of all the possible forms of rental in Spain. Now, the next steps within this playlist of buy-to-let investment videos, I will talk about a subject that is very sensitive and very important, which is the illegal occupation of the properties. In my next video, I will tell you what's going on and especially what you should do to avoid this risk, to protect your property, because there are ways to do it. So subscribe so you will be notified when the video comes out. And after that, I will talk about the taxes that you will have to pay as a non-resident when you rent out your property in Spain. With that, you will know absolutely everything to move on with your investment and get a very interesting passive income. For now, I thank you very much for spending time with me. I am always very grateful to all of you who watch my video. Please like the video, leave a comment. This helps me a lot and it helps the channel reaching more and more people like you who may be interested in these subjects. I thank you again and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.